So today we're going to talk about 357 Magnum and 38 Special Revolvers for SHTF in everyday use. Today, everybody seems to prefer using semi-automatic pistols when they may not be ideal for the use that you're using them for. And I see a lot of people talk about two aspects of a handgun. A lot of people carry a handgun as a backup to a long weapon, for instance, a rifle or shotgun. And you always hear them say, my handgun is to fight my way to a rifle. The only problem with that philosophy is there may not be a rifle at the end of the line. There may not be a rifle available, and it may be too far away. So a backup handgun may be the only weapon you have to fight with, especially against people that have a shotgun or a rifle already. Now, when it comes to fighting against somebody with a shotgun, you have actually a little bit more range with a handgun than most shotguns with buckshot will give you as far as effectiveness goes. But the real thing here is the fact that with a 357 Magnum revolver with a 4 or 6 inch barrel, you can actually shoot to 100, 150, 200 yards if you have the skill and you practice. So what that does is gives us a capability we don't find with most semi-automatic handguns. When I was young, I used to shoot PPC, Police Practical Revolver, and my brother and we used to load 500 to 1,000 rounds a week. So we would shoot 30 to 40,000 rounds between the two of us a year with revolvers. And I learned a tremendous amount of information about revolvers from doing that. And back in the day, I found with the 357 Magnum revolver versus a 38 revolver, you had a whole lot less drop. Your trajectory was much flatter to 150 yards. The other thing is we used to do a lot of silhouette and long-range target shooting. And I found that we could reliably hit ram targets and silhouette targets from 100 to 200 meters with a 357 mag revolver, 125 grain jacketed hollow points, and a 6 inch barrel. Now, when you step down to a 4 inch barrel, I think the difference in sight radius, it worked really well to 100, but it didn't do that well at 200 meters. But that might be because I have poor eyesight. So one thing we want to look at is whether you should use a revolver and which one you should use. Now, when we're looking at revolvers, the best thing to do is when you're thinking of a 38 Special, if it has the same barrel length as a 9mm handgun, they have roughly the same power. Now, people are going to debate that up and down, but the revolver allows you to use more destructive bullet designs that won't feed in semi-automatics. And if you actually look at the same weight bullets, they pretty much have the same effect, whether you're shooting a 9mm handgun or a 38 revolver. Now, the interesting thing is once you step up to a 357 Magnum, you get an increase in range because of the flatter trajectory over a 38. And you also get more velocity and energy to expand hollow points. Now, when we're comparing weapons, a good way to look at a 357 Magnum is it kind of has the same power ratio as a submachine gun would have. Now, this Madsen M50 9mm submachine gun, if you have a 8, 10, 12 inch barrel, you're going to get similar ballistics as you would with a 6 inch barrel 357 mag or an 8 inch 357 mag. Now, what we want to do next is look at individual revolvers. Now, what we want to do is talk about tactical niches, barrel lengths, and some of the aspects of keeping these weapons working. Now, what I mean about keeping them working is how do we reload them quickly? Now, what we'll start to talk about is how to use speed loaders and which ones there are available for. So the two most common speed loaders is the HKS Model 10. This fits probably the most revolvers on the market. The next one is the 5-shot HKS speed loader in 38 special. Now, what's interesting about this one is the HKS 36. It fits small frame 38 revolvers that are 5-shot. So, for instance, this chart arm 3-inch barrel, it fits those. But on the other hand, it also fits all of the 5-shot Charter Arm 357 Magnum revolvers also. And it fits Taurus 5 shots, it fits Rossi 5 shots, and many others. Now, when you're looking at revolvers and speed loaders, what you're going to find is the grip design and the cylinder release is going to determine whether you can reliably load with a speed loader without jamming the gun up. Now, what we find is on these 6-shot 2-inch 38s from Chart Arms, they take the HKS Model 10 speed loader. The problem is with these factory grips, the speed loader will not work in them. So what you end up having to do is get Pachmayr grips, and you can see on this Pachmayr grip how it's relieved so that the speed loader has clearance to load these revolvers. So if you're working with Chart Arms revolvers, whether they're 6-shot or 5-shot, 38 or 357 Magnum, none of the factory grips from the older production will work with speed loaders. You're going to have to replace that. Now, one of the most common revolvers you're going to find is the Smith & Wesson Model 10. And it comes in barrel lengths from 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, and 6.5, depending on years of production. This particular 4-inch model right here came from an Air Force officer. It's the older 5-screw design. Then you move up and you can get a 5-inch barrel. This nickel-plated Model 10 came from a police department. A lot of people that work with older 5-inch revolvers actually like them better than 6 or 4-inch revolvers. They find them heavy, but they give increased sight radius. So when you're looking at revolvers, some of the old production guns you can find in 5-inch barrels. So the Smith & Wesson Model 10, as well as the Smith & Wesson Model 27 and 28, occasionally you can find in 5-inch barrels. Now, this is a Smith & Wesson K-frame. It's a Model 14. So this is a 6-inch target version of the Model 10. So these all use the HKS 10 speed loader. Now, the interesting thing is this is a target gun, and it works really well for people in the field for doing long-range work. You can use some of the heavier 38 special rounds in the 158 grain range. You have really good adjustable sights, and you have a hand-honed target action here with a very light single-action pull. This makes an excellent long-range revolver choice. Very accurate. So the best way to understand and think about revolvers is to start with Smith & Wesson and talk about the different frame sizes they had. Smith & Wesson has a Model 36, which is a 5-shot 38 special undercover gun. It's small frame. It's called a J frame. Then we move up to the Model 10. The Model 10 pioneered the K-frame. On the Model 10, you can find 38 special and 32 caliber revolver cartridges. And then they have the Model 19, which is a 357 Magnum K-frame. Then what they did is moved up to the N-frame, which we have here, a Highway Patrolman and 357 Mag. And the N-frame was their large frame size. So the M frame was built in 44 Magnum, 45 Colt, 41 Mag, 357 Magnum. And it's a big heavy gun. It's super accurate. It lasts a long time. And it's easy to shoot, but it's very heavy. And then in the 60s and 70s, Smith & Wesson had issues with their K-frame holding up to 357 Magnum loads. So then they introduced an L frame, which I don't have an example of. So when we look at other brands of revolvers, we can kind of compare them to the frame size, the weight, and the cartridges that they're chambered for based on looking at Smith & Wesson. Now, 38 Special 2-inch barrel revolvers have two big advantages. One is they're easy to conceal. They have low recoil compared to the 357, and you can carry them in your pocket. And this pair of Charteron's Bulldogs I got a long time ago. I've had them 30 years. I bought them used, and then I carried them in my jacket pocket a lot over the years when I was working. So the second big advantage of a 2-inch 38 is you can insert it between yourself and somebody that's on top of you, turn it and fire it, which you can't do with a longer barrel. Now, a lot of revolvers, both small frame and larger frame, are available with 3-inch barrels. This was popularized for two reasons. One was the import restrictions on the Gun Control Act of '68. A lot of guns, because of the point system, couldn't be imported with 2-inch and 2.5-inch barrels. So the importers would bring them in or bring the frames in with 3-inch barrels, take them off and remanufacture them in the U.S. The other reason they were popular is the FBI and some gun writers popularized them. And one advantage you can have on a K-frame or a Taurus or some of the other full-size frames is you can have a full-length ejector rod on a 3-inch barrel. Now, on the smaller 5-shot frames, none of the 3-inch barrels actually come with a longer ejector. You only find that on the middle-sized frames. Now, when we look at 357 mags, their shortest barrel length in most cases is 2.5. And what a lot of manufacturers did is did 2.5 and 2 3/4 and 2 3/8 to try to get a little bit more velocity out of them. Because with the slow burning Magnum powders, you get huge muzzle flashes. Today, you can find a few that have 2-inch barrels. In the old days, Security Industries made a 2-inch 357, but they're very hard to find. Now, what I want to do is talk about some of the foreign and other manufactured brands of 357s and 38s. Now, I started off shooting Rugers, and this is a Speed 6. It is a medium frame. They hold up extremely well. When my brother and I were doing a lot of revolver shooting, we would shoot 250 to 500 rounds a week. And I found that the Ruger Security 6 series could hold up to that dyed ammunition. Now, most of that was 38 Special. And I have a 6-inch Target version that's had over 30,000 rounds of 38 through it, and probably about 5,000 rounds of 357. And they don't require retiming or a lot of care to digest that many rounds. Now, the Dan Wesson revolver is probably the one revolver that lasts the longest. You can fire a tremendous amount of full-powered ammo, whether it's 38 or 357, and they just hold up forever. The other thing is you can rebuild them yourself. So you'll notice that the cylinder release is not on the back of the revolver. That gives you a lot of clearance for speed loaders and nothing to hang up on. This is actually your cylinder release right here. So it's up front. It takes a little getting used to. But the big thing with this gun, if you shoot the barrel out, you can actually change them yourself. Because here you'll see there's a nut on the end. You can take the nut off. The barrel's threaded on both sides. So you can change barrel shrouds and barrels. And for instance, my brother has a pistol pack where he has an 8-inch, a 6, a 4, and a 2.5, and he can change them to however he wants. So in a survival situation, being able to have spare barrels and be able to change them yourself is a huge advantage. Now, the Dan Wessons all use the HKS Model 10 speed loader. Then we go to the Astral Revolvers from Spain. They come in 2.5, 4, and 6-inch barrel lengths. They're excellent quality. They actually utilize the HKS 586 series speed loaders. Now, one thing I'd like to talk about with the different chart arms revolvers is they give you several interesting capabilities. One is they are very lightweight for the caliber, which means they're easy to carry and easy to conceal. Now, these are all short barrel versions, but I hear a lot of people talking about that a handgun is too heavy to carry in addition to other equipment on their web gear. And if you go to Charter Arms, these are light duty revolvers, but they will last longer than most users. So you can actually get a 6-inch barrel 357 5-shot or a 2.5-inch barrel 357 5-shot or various types of 38 specials. And it gives you a long range capability that's very lightweight. So that's an alternative for long range patrol and if you're overburdened with weight. Now, another choice you have is Taurus revolvers. There's a huge amount of them out there. This one was sold surplus out of a security company. It's 38 special, has a 3-inch barrel, full length ejector rod, and I put large grips on this one instead of the concealment grips. Now, with the Tauruses, you can get 357 or 38. Now, these are pretty heavy revolvers for what you get, but they work really well. So when we're looking at revolvers, the 357 mags with 4 and 6-inch barrels give you a lot of range you wouldn't have with a semi-automatic pistol. So please share your thoughts. We'll see you on the next video.